Welcome back to the Deep Dive series where we take a look at each NFL team and try to come up with a realistic outcome and prediction for them going into the 2022 NFL season. And we don't do each episode by a power rankings, but where they will fall in the draft order, because after this, we're doing a 2023 NFL mock draft because your boy, he's kind of a draft channel. That's kind of what I do, and I am working hard on my prospect rankings as we speak. Don't worry, those will be out hopefully early July, as I'm currently cutting through the defensive prospects. But what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So we're talking about the Washington Commanders. That's what we went with, because Red Hogs wasn't cool, but if anything, I appreciate the meme. So Washington fans, get your comrags out and start waving them, because we're talking the Washington Commanders, and we're going to start with the offense. And we're going to talk a little bit about the scheme as well, because this is, yes, coached by Ron Rivera, but the OC is Scott Turner, who is Norv Turner's son. So this is going to be your typical brand of a Norv Turner. Why is that so hard to say? Norv Turner offense, and this is kind of based off the Air Coryell offense, which uses the passing game to really open up the running game. But after the bye last season, Scott Turner really started to lean a bit more on the zone running game, and they saw a lot of success winning their first 4 games out of the bye. But then Antonio Gibson got a bit banged up, and they lost their next 4 games, and I think 3 of them were within 10 points or less. So it's like, this team's like, you know what, we want to get the running game going. That was working for us, so it should have been a no-brainer, like projecting they go with the running back somewhere on day 2. But yeah, they get Brian Robinson, who's going to be a very good complement to Antonio Gibson, a guy who you really don't want to have be this bell cow. I mean, he could do so much in the passing game and as well. So it's like he's already going to see a ton of touches. But again, someone else that you can lean on. Essentially, this is Peyton Barber on steroids. So it's kind of nice, but it goes along with the philosophy that they want to get this run game going. Now, the other part of this offense, the passing game, it focuses on mid-range chunk plays, typically towards the sideline, to kind of reduce that risk level, and it'll often put receivers in motion so they can get free releases, which now makes all the more sense. They go with Jahan Dotson in the first round, a guy whose size you're kind of worried about his release package at that size in the NFL. So putting him more in motion so you get those free releases, because you know you're getting a very explosive route runner in Dotson. That makes a bit more sense as well. But this offense, in terms of the pass game, it really requires timing and anticipation. And we saw this offense last year with Taylor Heineke kind of like struggle a little bit, because the dude's streaky. Like, when he's hot, and when he's not, he's not. The problem was he would quickly go down to his checkdowns, and we saw guys like Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick. They were 3rd and 4th on the team in volume. So it's like in the receiving game. So you kind of don't want that. Like, you know, that's not what you're really not meant to go as often to your checkdowns as he did last year in this type, or at least in this style of offense. Now, the Commanders, they decided to roll the dice on Carson Wentz. It's a big dice to roll in there. But again, they added a piece on offense to Jahan Dotson. Hopefully they get things cleared up with Terry McLaurin, and currently he's doing the holdout thing. I imagine they give him a contract, because like the longer you wait, the more you're going to end up paying him, like, because receivers are starting to get, well, they're not starting to get, they're very expensive nowadays. So go ahead, just give this dude his contract and be done with it, because you're just going to end up paying more later on the longer you hold off on that. Let's go ahead and kind of get into who's on this offense. And I see why this team wants to like run the ball, because they have a really good offense. They bring back Charles Leno, who had a very good season last year. They also bring back Cornelius Lucas, who is a very good replacement level starter. Just a good guy to have in terms of depth. Samuel Cosby had a pretty good season before injury. He's going to be back there at right tackle. So I love the tackle spots. I don't know why they like parted ways with Eric Flowers. Matter of fact, did Eric Flowers find a landing spot somewhere? Eric Flowers. Excuse me. Nope, still a free agent. Maybe they could get him back. But they got Andrew Norwell, who was kind of a big bust in Jacksonville in terms of his contract, but having him come in here, he's still I would say, an above average player on the interior line. They have probably one of the best centers in the league in Chase Rawyer. And I think the right guard spot's going to be interesting. They do bring in Trey Turner, but Wes Schweitzer, when called upon, has played very well. Very well. So if he ends up being the starter at the beginning of the year, it won't surprise me none. So that's going to be like a competition to watch out for. They do have Chris Paul as well, who they drafted there in the 7th. Surprised he didn't go at least a little bit higher. I think I had a 5th round grade on him. But very strong. It won't surprise me if he gets some time. But they also have is it Sadiq Charles, the former LSU tackle, now guard, even a guard with tackle capabilities. He's there. So they actually got some pretty good depth. Tyler Lawson's fine depth as well. So they got some good stuff there. They got some good stuff there. The offensive line, I think, looks pretty good. And they got Antonio Gibson, who former receiver, keep in mind, back in, I think it's Memphis. It was one of those blue helmet schools. I'm pretty sure it's Memphis. Not Buffalo, it's Memphis. But former receiver, just offensive weapon in general. JT McKissick probably going to reprise his role as the scat back in this offense. You got the big ball buster that Brian Robinson is. Nice red zone back, nice short distance back. Jared Patterson's also going to be involved there. Those are probably the 4 that they keep. I think maybe Jonathan Williams has an outside shot at making this squad. Not really. I think I said maybe he has an outside shot at making the squad. Not really. Ha! Played you. But yeah, they got them there. And at receiver, sign your boy, Terry McLaurin. He's been wonderful for you. Don't go into this season with an unhappy Terry McLaurin. Get Scary Terry his money, or else the season's going to be scarier than it needs to be with Carson Wentz and no Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson, I think he's probably going to play most of his reps on the outside because they have Curtis Samuel, who's a very similar player. That's probably going to be the slot. He dealt with injury last year, so it'd be nice to see him on the field. Other guys that they got there, it's gonna be interesting who makes a squad after that, because I think they retain a guy like Antonio Gandy Golden, who's kind of like this big vertical weapon. You got Kelvin Harmon, who's like this big possession receiver. De'Ami Brown, another vertical guy, very good vertical guy who has a rapport with Sam Howell, who maybe is a quarterback of the future, at least the guy you're going to try to develop. So that's there is that. I think, yeah, De'Ami makes a team. I don't know, man. Something tells me either like Antonio Golden or Kelvin Harmon, one of those two guys just ain't going to make the squad. They're just not. Dax Milline actually was pretty nice late last year. So maybe he makes the squad. They got Cam Sims. Like they got options. That's the cool thing about it. They have Logan Thomas at tight end. John Bates actually looked pretty good in a few appearances there. And then they got Cole Turner in the 5th round. Just really a receiving guy, a guy you don't want blocking. So probably tight end 2 at best. They have Samuel Reyes from last year. The cat from, was it Chile? Can't remember specifically where he came from, but this someone that they're just developing. So with Curtis Hodge and Amani Rogers, they're just UDFAs that might make the practice squad. I think if they go 4 tight ends, it's probably those guys, because like Bates probably offers the best upside as a blocker among those guys. So yeah, like there's weapons. Can Carson Wentz, a man who's just not been good as he used to be, not really since the injury, really, but it makes all the sense of the world that they go after Carson Wentz. They have their, what is it? Is it Alshon Jeffrey? Their Alshon Jeffrey style of receiver for Carson Wentz in Terry McLaurin. That's when Wentz was at his best, when he was with Alshon Jeffrey. So it does make sense. They do have Taylor Heineke, who I really think is a high-end backup in the NFL. And then, of course, they're developing Sam Howell. They got Cole Kelly, who's got ridiculous size and a big arm. But I'm going to go with Sam Howell. Sam Howell's like 3 years younger. He was the youngest quarterback in this draft class. So, like, Sam Howell's got a big arm in his own right. I don't expect him to see any playing time this year. Even if they are losing, I think you're paying for Carson Wentz, so you might as well take Carson. Like, you might as well just let him ride the pine. Don't throw your rookie in there to really kill his confidence. Just continue with Carson Wentz. If you end up on the losing end, then you get a good draft pick, right? The problem is, what does that mean for Ron Rivera? You know, because the time is ticking. Time is ticking. Not the time is clicking. The time is ticking for Ron Rivera's. Ron Rivera's. Why is that? Yeah, Riverboat Ron Rivera. Why did I say Ez? Oh man, I can tell you where it all went downhill. The clock is clicking. It's ticking. Oh, now I'm all messed up with my words. There we go. But, like, the offense looks pretty good. Like, Carson Wentz, hey, if you could, like, shake that whole, oh, no, I'm feeling pressure, I need to get out of the pocket when there's no pressure to be had, then great. Like, shake that. You got a good offensive line that I think will protect you well. If they're going to lean on the run game, like, they were, like, running the ball in that 8-game span, like, well over 60% of the time. So that's fine. That's cool. You don't have to put it on his shoulders. You could open it up now with a bit of play action. The thing is, with a typical Norv Turner offense, it can get too predictable. The playbook's not huge, so it'll be interesting to see what Scott Turner does do with this offense and how it looks this year. I guess let's go ahead, get into the defense, and we're talking about, we got Jack Del Rio as the DC here, and we can talk about a little bit what Jack Del Rio does. So last season, this defense, they had plenty of problems in terms of production, in terms of injury. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, they didn't take that next jump in production, and neither of them finished this season because of injury. 2021 first-round draft pick, Jamin Davis, struggled as like the Mike linebacker. They moved him to the week, looked a little bit better. Actually, Cole Holcomb has been a very good player for Washington, very reliable. He probably should end up being the Mike this year, but Jamin Davis just didn't look that good. You're hoping he takes that next step. And then they go out and sign William Jackson, who just screams. He's a guy that you want to play in a heavy man defense. And Jack Del Rio doesn't really play with that idea. He's like, nah, dude, what I do is heavy zone, cover 2, cover 4, and he doesn't really adapt his scheme to his players. That's kind of like the big problems I have with Jack Del Rio's defense, that it just can become very predictable. Now, despite this team, they blitz a lot. Like, they were 7th in blitz rate last season. It's just they don't really disguise it. They'll just bring in an extra man on the defensive line, and which kind of makes sense because they actually had a lot of depth on that defensive line. They had a lot of players. They did lose some on that interior, and Matt Ioannidis. I always mess up his last name. Matt I and Tim Settle. So they lose a couple of those guys, and they bring in Fedarian Mathis, which should surprise me, given that they lost 2 key free agents on the interior. Darren Payne, you're kind of like, okay, are they gonna extend him, or is that a guy they're just gonna let go? So I don't know. Things got a little interesting. I will say day 1 and day 2 for Washington in the draft, I didn't like all that bit. I didn't really like that much. I thought Jahan Dotson was a bit of a reach for where they took him. I thought both Fedarian Mathis and Brian Robinson, especially Robinson. It's like you're bringing a guy in to really just be goal line, short yardage back, just as power back to get you some tough, hard-earned yards, a guy that won't do anything in the passing game. Like, you could have got that later in the draft. There's guys that are capable of that. So it's like, I don't know. I didn't love it too much. So it's like this squad, like, you gotta think, man. Del Rio, will he adapt more of his scheme to his players? Can we see a bit more man coverage, maybe? Perhaps. I don't know. Like, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting nonetheless. I guess let's just go ahead and start like talking about a little bit about the roster. They still have a mean pass rush with Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Let's see how they bounce back after a less than ideal 2021. And they actually have good depth there. James Smith-Williams, very underrated depth player. They also got Casey Toohill from wasn't he Stanford? Like back in 2021 maybe, but I don't know. I don't think Toohill starts over guys like, or not even starts, but I don't think he has a spot over guys like Shaka Toney, William Bradley, Keene, who actually did some work last year as DPRs. So if we're really talking about guys that are going to make the roster, it's James Smith-Williams, it's going to be Shaka Toney, it's going to be William Bradley Keene. They do have Jacob Pansick, the Michigan State edge, kind of this older edge setter, more of this run stuffer guy who does have a bit of a pass rush, I would say production, not really an upside, but he's still a long shot to make the squad. But they got it on the defensive line. Even going to the interior, you still have Jonathan Allen, who's like a top 5, top 3 interior player in the NFL. Darren Payne's been pretty solid as well. You bring in Fedarian Mathis, a guy who's basically, he may not have a high upside, but the floor is pretty high. He's going to be a good NFL defensive lineman for years to come. So that's nice. But I don't know, man. I don't think they got much else going. They don't have the depth like they did last year. Going to the linebackers, you're hoping Jamin Davis bounces back. I think they continue to play him weak side just because he's really... you could just tell how raw he is, just his ability to read and react. It really looks like he's a guy that has to see it to believe it. And he's just late to his assignment, so like just having him somewhere he can run a little bit wild, a little bit free. Weak side kind of feels more ideal. Cole Holcomb's actually been a pretty good guy in coverage. David Mayo's good depth. Kaliki Hudson's a guy that used to be a safety, moved to linebacker there, coming out of Michigan. We haven't seen much of him though. Not really much to talk about there in terms of linebacker though. Yeah, not really. But going to the secondary. Secondary is good. It's good. They kind of like got rid of like one of the big problems they had in the secondary, being Landon Collins, who didn't really want to be a linebacker. Then they basically played him in this jack linebacker role, and it was just, I don't know. It was a big cap hit they could get off the books. So good for them. But Bobby McCain, he's really a journeyman at this point in his career. You're hoping for an upgrade. I'm really surprised they haven't let Jeremy Reeves get more of a shot. I thought he was good a couple of years ago, and they just haven't been willing to put him back in the starting lineup with Cameron Curl, who was another guy that kind of broke out, had a really good season, last 2 seasons. So yeah, I'm surprised that Jeremy Reeves hasn't gotten more playing time. But they did draft Percy Butler out of Louisiana in the 4th round. So he's one of the probably like one of the day 3 guys that has that range to play deep safety. Derek Forrest was a guy I really liked out of Cincinnati a year ago, who's more of this ideal split high, which he actually is a really good scheme fit. I think he played more on special teams last season, but this is what I mean by it. Why don't they play more man with William Jackson? They bring it in the 7th round. And I know it's a 7th round pick, but still, Christian Holmes, who is ideally a press man corner. Press corner at the very least. Like that's what he did throughout his career there, both at Missouri and then at Oklahoma State. So that really surprised me. Kendall Fuller, he's nice because he's got slot and outside corner capabilities. I think we're going to see more of Benjamin St. Jude's this year. Devin Taylor, I know he's a UDFA, but he's a guy with actually a very interesting history as he became best known for like working out with Antonio Brown and locking him up pretty well. Like, just a guy that didn't get a fair shake when he transferred from, I think it was Illinois State to Virginia Tech. They tried to convert him to safety, and then he moves to Bowling Green and actually has a pretty darn good season at Bowling Green. But he might be a long shot to make the roster, but watch out for that cat. Like, both Christian Holmes and Devin Taylor were guys I was pretty high on a couple of years ago. Corn Elder comes in as like a reliable slot option, but again, they also have slot options in Cameron Curl and Kendall Fuller, and I think those guys are just going to see the football field more. They have Danny Johnson, but that's just saying they have Danny Johnson. So, like, the secondary looks promising. It's just going to be interesting. Can they get home? Can they get the pass rush going? Can they be a bit more creative with their blitzes? Maybe get Jamin Davis more involved in that aspect. So, like, I think this defense has a big shot to be fun, man. It's just this is the problem I have with both the coordinators, is that they can be too predictable at times, and it kind of stunts what this team can do. So can they adapt? Can they evolve, per se? But I guess let's go ahead and get into my stars. How I do my stars, I do it based on who's going to see the field the most, who is going to have the most snaps. I don't care about, your stars and your base formations. It's all about who sees the field, because that's going to dictate how well your team does. So looking at it, we got Carson Wentz, of course, the quarterback. Then Antonio Gibson. I got scary Terry McLaurin. They're going to get it figured out. Don't worry. They're going to get it figured out with him. Jahan Dotson. And I put Curtis Samuel here, slot. I imagine Dotson might get some goes in the slot, but it's Dotson. They draft him that high. They're going to use him on the outside. Then Logan Thomas, and on the offensive line, Charles Leno, Andrew Norwell, Chase Royer. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Wes Schweitzer ends up getting the start over Trey Turner, who's more of a this bridge starter now in the league. And then Samuel Cosme going to the defense. No surprise, there is legit, I don't think a new starter. Nope, no new starter here on the defense. Just Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Darren Payne, Jonathan Allen, Cole Holcomb, Jamie Davis. You got William Jackson, Benjamin St. Jude's, Kendall Fuller, Bobby McCain, and Cameron Curl. Legit, basically the same. They're bringing back the same defense they had last season. So not a lot of changes. Not a lot of changes for this team, but some significant ones in terms of bringing in Carson Wentz and Jahan Dotson. Let's go ahead, talk about how I think this team does. I have them at 6-11. This is going to be an interesting go. This is going to be an interesting team to watch, because the defense, can they live up to their can they live up to their potential? Can they hit the production they're capable of? And can the offense, will Carson Wentz not be a disaster? That's the biggest question. Will he not be a disaster? And that's why you see this team, or at least why I have them projected a lot lower than I guess necessarily what they look on paper. They got a really easy start to the season with teams like Jacksonville, Detroit, who, by the way, haven't mentioned Detroit yet. I got some hopes for Detroit. You got the Eagles. I got them split in with the Eagles. It's typically how the NFC East goes. They split a lot of games. Though I do have them Washington 2-4. I think I got them losing to the Cowboys twice. Excuse me. Yes, I am losing the Cowboys twice because best believe it, Dallas right here. They're in week 18. They're gonna be in. Hey, we have to make the playoffs. Come on, man. We can't keep just missing the playoffs. At some point, that team has to produce, or else it's gonna be let's just blow this thing up because it's not working out. Also, the Browns. I say this every video. They're such a hard team to project. Will they have Deshaun or will they not? Because how this team does will be vastly different if they don't have their franchise guy, an elite level quarterback. But yeah, I guess we go back and like look at their schedule for from the get-go. I mean, the Eagles, you got a couple of conference or division games. Then you got to go face Tennessee, which that team's always good. Even if Ryan Tannehill is just crap in the bed as he did last year, like it's especially with the healthy Derrick Henry, watch out. They get the Bears. I got the Bears winning. Yeah, I do. I like Justin Fields. Facing the Packers, the Colts, another team who this is Carson Wentz return to Indianapolis after 1 year. Let's see how that goes. I don't think that it's going to be much of a revenge game. I really don't. I got them winning over Minnesota. Minnesota, typically, they get real hot near the end of the year. That way they're good enough to be like, oh, we just missed the playoffs. Well, of course you did. You're not that good. But, yeah, I mean, they get Texans. They get the Falcons, Giants right before the bye. Then they open the bye with the Giants, which is nice, but you get San Fran, the Browns. That's not like an easy last slate of games. It's just it seems a bit hard to kind of project. Like, I feel like 6 sounds about right. I think they could be an 8-win team. If you were to hold a gun to my head and be like, can this team win 9 games? I won't bet my life on it. I'd be like, hell nah. That's kind of how I feel about Washington. But I'm sure you'll rip me in the comment section below. You'll let me know what you really think. You Commander fans waving your comrags. So, yeah, let me know. And I'm not clowning y'all on the comrags thing. I love it. It's funny. I'm embracing it. Y'all Washington fans need to embrace it. I'm just gonna say that. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year for Washington. They fortunately play in a division that's really not that good, though Philly looks really good. Question is, can Jalen Hurts at least not even necessarily take the next step? Can he just, not turn over the ball? Can he not, turn over where he plays? It's kind of a thing. But it'll be interesting. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead and do that YouTube thing. I'll be back next week with more deep dives. But until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.